Okay, I'm going to show you a quick way to create the cylinder. I'm going to start with the non-photo blue color. And so what we're looking for with a circle, you have these points that help us find the ellipse in perspective, right? When we have this in space, then these points are what we're looking at in plan view. So if you want to use a perspective tool, then I recommend you keep them far away. Work within the cone of vision. Tablet's sticking. So essentially, all I need is the center line. And then I need this vertical line. And then I need the horizontal line. It's like origami too, so you want to get as close as you can to tangent. So essentially that's like somewhere between here is my ellipse. It's going to contact those points. If I use the ellipse guide, point that towards the minor axis. Pretty close. Okay, now I can find the box. Of the back wall so I have to decide how wide I want this to be. Let's say I'm going to have each section be this wide. Now I'm going to use an X in the back to find the center line so that I can find the next segment in space. And then perspective goes from that corner out. That's my center point. Goes from this edge to the intersection of that cross with the back edge. That's going to give me the next segment foreshortened in space. And then this line goes down. And then this one goes in perspective. And then I have to keep track which one is the edge. So that's one. Then the next segment crosses center line. So you can see it foreshortens in space. Now these are giving me the panels. I said panels, I mean the planes. Those are the planes that the ellipses are going to sit on. So going along the center line, and then it's going to get smaller and wider as it goes further away from us. And it'll sit within the boundary of that plane that we just created in perspective. And it gets wider the further it goes from the front of the ellipse. Almost a circle in the back here. So at this point, I could clean it up, or I could just leave it and use Illustrator to create the finished lines. I think I'll do it that way. Now, plotting the shadow with light source, and I'm going to use orange for the light rays. And it's a good idea. You can plot some 4 points, maybe this one. Don't want it to be a long shadow. I want it to be around here. These go down to the ground, and then I'll use green for the ground plane. Now, the light could go parallel to the wall, and that would create a rectangular shadow. And if it's not parallel to the edge, then it is going to be an ellipse. Let's say it's going like this. It might be a good idea to just do one at a time and plot, oops, wrong one. So this one is here. That one right here. That one is here. As you can see, it's going to be a pretty narrow. And then from here, I know it's going to go the length there. And go down this way. And like I said, I could create a new layer, clean up the work, or I could just export it this way, use it as an underlay. I'm going to show you that way. I don't like to use PSD files out of Sketchbook Pro. It kind of acts a little wonky sometimes. TIFF seems to be more stable. JPEG does not write layers, and it's a smaller file size. TIFFs are a larger file size, and since this is a template, that's good for me. I like using JPEG to save on memory, not hog up too much on my computer. So now I'm going to move to Illustrator. Create a new file, tabloid 11 by 17, CMYK color, create, file, place your image. You're going to click and drag, holding down shift will constrain the proportions. So you can make it the length of your page, the size of your page. Double click, I'm going to call this template. And I'm going to click template, and that will automatically dim it to 50% and lock the layer so it doesn't move, and I can work on top of it. Start with the center line. So I like the pen tool. You can use a line tool, but the pen for some reason for me works better. And then if you click and drag, it creates the ellipse from the edge, but if you hold down Alt, it will go from the center line. Turn off the fill so you can see what you're doing. With the what they call the marquee around the edge, you can rotate it. The default is vertical. Make sure that your perspective grid is turned off. And I like to use snap to point so that it might be snap. It depends. Sometimes it's snap to pixel. There, it's a little bit, it's wanting to stick to that line, and that's going to help my alignment.